let's get started. Welcome to Storm the Field, Kansas State, presented by Tree City Sports, your source for local sports. Man, watching this game against Liberty is kind of brutal, but they've got a lot to figure out, and there's a lot of things that they're not doing the way that they should. But it's against Liberty. So how hard are they really trying? So how are you guys feeling about tonight and this weekend in a whole?
The state of the Big 12 is on fire.
Yes, it is crazy, not only in basketball, but we're getting into basketball season, but we can't focus on that fully yet because of how crazy the football season is right now. I mean, everybody that was at the top is going down, and it's crazy.
I mean, you got like I pointed out, like I said earlier, in my tweet today, the fact that Arizona State, first off, was projected last in the preseason polls to finish in the Big 12. Now they went unranked to now a number 15 team in the nation with Big 12 championship possibilities and even a playoff spot. That's absolutely insane. That's insanity to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. They're having the kind of year that we thought Arizona might have. We thought Arizona might be somewhat towards the top of the Big 12, and it is not that way.
Yeah, and I mean, good. I mean, honestly, good for them. Like, honestly, like, good for Arizona State. They had hell, last season, and good for them that they figured it out and they really found their guy with Dunningham. And yeah, no, they look like a complete they look like a complete team. They were definitely not a pushover. So, hopefully they continue winning out and hopefully they go into the championship and represent the Big 12 and hopefully they don't get blown out. But my main question is what's going to happen with the SEC? That's going to be the main question on a lot of people's minds.
Well, and this is the problem is that, Alabama is 13th. They're still right there in the, right out on the outside of the playoffs. Like, if they went by rankings, obviously it goes by conference champions and stuff. But still, it's crazy to think that the SEC, as it projects right now, what did they have? Three teams in, and the ACC had three teams, and the Big Ten had three or four, I think, and the Big 12 had none. I mean, we know we're going to deal with the bias, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I just don't get how Alabama could be ranked number 13 after that performance last night because, I mean, the one thing that people don't realize is OU had zero starting wide receivers playing last night, and they haven't most of the season. And that is an abysmal offense. Now, I know most of the production came on the defense side of the ball, but still, I mean, they were moving the ball down the field on Alabama pretty easily. They just couldn't capitalize on some drives, but oh well, and that's just what it's going to be. I mean, as long as they got that name value, and that's, and also you got to keep in mind that that was the AP poll. We'll know Tuesday night what the playoff committee thinks, but I've got that gut feeling that they're going to try to keep getting as many SEC schools in as possible.
Yeah, no, they're
So
definitely trying.
the thing and that's definitely what's probably going to happen. But again, like it's ironic. It is just hilarious to me that these people, the ESPN, the commentators, I've heard them time and time again, and we've heard them time and time again say the Big 12 just beats itself up. They beat themselves up. They beat themselves up. They're not really a good conference. Yet, what we witnessed last night was the Big 12, yes, beating itself up as per usual, as is expected of our lovely conference. But then seeing not just Arizona, I mean, sorry, not just Alabama go down. but you
Texas
saw
A&M.
Auburn, Texas A&M go down, and Ole Miss go down. And these are the teams that were projected to be in the playoffs. Now they're gone down. And obviously, Alabama, fun fact, if you didn't know, Alabama hasn't put up just 3 points. They did not score a touchdown. So 3 points. That has not been a thing in Alabama football since 2004.
Mm.
Alabama has
That is
not
rough.
lost. That is 3 points since 2004. That's a fun fact. I don't know if that is what I heard. But I've someone, if that is true, if that's not true,
I think
fact
it was
check me
2000.
please.
I think it was 2011 is what I saw.
Oh, then yeah,
Because that
it's
was
been a
that
while.
was
It's been a minute and a
yeah.
half.
I think
But
it was that dreaded national championship game when it was LSU and Alabama. What was the score, 6-3 or whatever?
oh,
Remember
ew,
that 2011?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So again, like I don't get why the SEC bias, and we're gonna see it obviously. But what's gonna happen, and this is gonna be the main thing. What's gonna happen next week? The Iron Bowl is next week, and we all know that the Iron Bowl is when some voodoo voodoo crap happens. Um, Auburn has almost won the. Did they win? They almost win last season. I every time I've seen the Iron Bowl, it's always just been a close game.
I think it was
And
either last year. It was either last year or 2 years ago. But yeah, it was one of the two.
so and Auburn right now, they're confident. They just knocked off a top 25 team, a top 20 team, I think. Um, and now they're going to a very demoralized, very ticked off Alabama. And
Mm.
is it in Brian? Is it in Tuscaloosa or Auburn?
That's what I'm looking at right now. But
Yeah. So
Iron Bowl
again,
2024.
what's to say that what if Texas A&M takes down the Longhorns? And we all know this is going to be in Kyle Field, first time since 2011, a very monumental uh, a game coming up, and now you're going to get you're going to get possibly Auburn taking down Alabama. And who knows? Again, the Egg Bowl. There's Ole Miss. Mississippi State may pull off a miracle.
It's in Tuscaloosa this
Okay,
weekend.
so yeah, maybe they may not have the home field advantage, but like,
But they're fighting for a bowl spot. That's the thing with Auburn is they have to win this to get bowl eligibility.
yeah. So if Auburn pulls this off, they're in a bowl. Alabama's pre postseason um playoffs are dashed. Again, there's a lot riding of like it's rivalry week. And we all know a lot of stuff. Again, if Ole Miss, Texas A&M, or Texas and Alabama all lose this week, there's not gonna be a SEC agenda to stand on because the proof is in the pudding. The SEC is not good, and I've said this since the very beginning. The SEC is not gonna be good this season because for a long time we've been on the SEC has been resting on Nick Saban and Georgia. Well, Georgia now, not so much, but now you take Nick Saban away, the SEC's open, wide
Mhm.
open, and it's just as wide open as the Big 12.
Yeah, I think the problem though is if you look at it right now, they're already backfilling. They're trying to build a agenda now to say that of the first four teams out or the next four out, they're putting South Carolina in there. So they're using that as a 7-3 South Carolina team or 8-3,
But
whatever.
why? That's the thing. South
Because
Carolina.
all that's going to do is just solidify them. It just shows, hey, yeah, even though they have the same record as whoever might be in the Big 12, who got three losses, but they'll say that this is a team that has beat this team. Because I don't know South Carolina's record, but I did see that a lot today. Where saying they're going to be a game player going in, and of course, if they win this weekend against Clemson, then that's even more for them. So I don't agree. I'm totally on your side. I don't agree with it, but I just think that that's what they're going to do. They're going to use Missouri because you saw that power index. They've got OU at 23. Pardon me, Tree, but
Oh,
23.
I got you.
but like that's just ridiculous. A 6-5 team, but that's how it's going to be. They're just going to keep pushing its agenda, and on the back end, they're just going to say, "Well, the Big 12 just sucks. They just eat each other up." Well, that's what the SEC, like you're saying, Sam.
Yeah,
They're just eating each other up. We all are
the
doing that.
yeah, and that's and again, like I don't I and that's the thing that's the thing that still just bothers me. I don't know if that bothers a lot of people. Tree, you could let me know here if this what do you think on this? But the thing that bothers me is fans on Twitter and a lot of fans saying, "Oh, the SEC." They're just a good conference because they're just consistently good. There's two teams that are consistently good. And I've said this before. I'm sorry. I'd rather have a conference that every week I do not know what's going to happen. That's excitement. That's excitement. I mean, I always compare this to the NFL during Tom Brady and the Patriots. We all knew what was going to happen, but that's why the NFL was so boring. The Patriots were going to win. Yeah, we all know. It's just dominant. Once the Patriots left, hell, the Bucks made it into the Super Bowl. That was exciting. That was the first time I was watching NFL, and I'm like, this is exciting for the first time in a very long time. So
And the
I
first
don't
time
get
they
what.
played a Super Bowl in their home building.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So like, I don't get the notion of oh there's so much parity. This is not a good conference. It just adds excitement. That's what makes the Big 12, and that's what makes parity so exciting because I mean, again, hey,
Who knows?
that's the reason about this the Storm the Field brand. The best part of a college football game is when your underdog team takes down a top 10 team or a top 15 team in UCF's case. Sorry, Oklahoma State. But that's always just the exciting part. That is what makes college football so great. That's what makes the sport so great.
Yeah, exactly. And I was arguing with a Georgia fan about them saying TCU is shouldn't have been in the playoffs that year and stuff. And I was like, the Big 12 is so much better than the SEC because apart from maybe three or four teams in the SEC, any one of our teams could beat any team in the SEC with no
Not this year.
problem.
Not
Yep.
this year.
Not
Not this year. Not
not
not not this year.
necessarily.
Not
Not
this year.
necessarily this
No.
year, but in general, in history most of the time, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's
There,
like
there's a
when you guys.
certain there's a certain four teams in the Big 12 that are right now going through the gates of hell.
Yeah. Well, it's like whenever Kansas State played Mississippi State. You know what I mean? They came to Manhattan, y'all lost, but when you guys went down to Starkville, you guys won. I mean,
Yep.
it's always been pretty equal there. But I think they have a hard time separating the tippy top of the SEC, which we all can admit is elite, from the rest of it. It's like the rest of it's just hot garbage. And I mean, some of those teams are good. I mean, some of them are, any given year, Missouri will be good. Any given year, South Carolina will be good. But like Sam said, I just love the fact that the Big 12, it's always something special every year. There's always a surprise team. Last year, OSU was a surprise team. Like my team was the surprise team because there was a lot of people picking us to go 2-10 last year, and we came out and played in the Big 12 title game. Now, I enjoy that aspect of it. I don't enjoy the fact that when I was watching Ohio State play Indiana yesterday, so kind of moving over to Big Ten, I knew deep down Ohio State was going to win. I really did not believe in Indiana in that game, and so many of these SEC and Big Ten games that everybody loves so much. 9 times out of 10, you have a pretty good idea who's going to win that game. You know what I mean? With the Big 12, I bet you guys had no idea whenever that ball kicked off yesterday for Arizona State BYU who was going to win that game. I had
I
no
mean, I
idea.
I mean,
I had zero.
I kind of had like a feeling like after the Utah BYU game, I was the Holy War. I even said in the group chat, and you guys saw that this this was the writing was on the wall. BYU was starting to slow down.
Yeah, but I mean, still, again, I mean that was a Arizona State team that lost to Texas Tech earlier in the year. I mean, and if you put Texas Tech out there with BYU, I think BYU would win. But that doesn't matter. I mean, it just goes down to I like the suspense of the Big 12 better, but then again, I think the people that want to make the arguments for the SEC and the Big Ten are people that don't like the upsets. It's the legacy brands that they like to go after, the Colin Cowherds of the world.
Yeah, because you like I said, like I fully think, and I've said before, I think that UCF could take on. I mean, not this UCF, um, but I mean, arguably, and again, this is copium of my team that we didn't get beat by a future 2-10 Florida team. We got beat by an okay Florida team, and we were just historically bad. But I think that UCF or even any of the Big 12 schools, you put them on the same as Auburn, maybe Texas A&M, definitely Vanderbilt. And believe it or not, I was having last season I was having arguments that Vanderbilt fans were calling Big 12 teams mid, and I'm like, listen, I'll let any SEC team tell me, that the Big 12 is mid. Okay, well, I'm not taking that from Vanderbilt fans. I did have a cold take exposed because I did say, let me know when you're going to go bowling and beat a ranked team. I'll be waiting. Guess who they beat? And guess what they're doing? So it's funny. The guy a year later was like, I didn't forget. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. Call me out on that. That was hilarious. I was laughing. But still, like you could get any Big 12 team, put them against Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Like the mid half and the bottom half of the SEC can go toe. The Big 12 can go toe to toe.
Oh well, Big 12's better.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're Big 12 guys though.
I mean, even said, I mean that. Yeah, we are Big 12 guys, and I mean, but you could also make the argument Boise. Boise can go toe to toe with some of the SEC.
Well, that's mostly because of one player that's having a dream
Yeah,
season.
Ashton Genty alone could put 150 and two tutties on Georgia right now. I'll tell you that.
Well, but I think Sam's right though, because they're traditionally are just like the Big 12 though. I mean, they've been solid for what, the last 25 years. I mean,
I
most times they could
but
beat a middle of the line SEC team.
Boise State is a power school. They are a power school. They've just never had the opportunity to show it, or have no one's looked at them. When the expansion of the Big 12 started with UCF and we came in, I was very vocal in saying that I feel bad for Boise fans. And I love Boise State fans. They are my favorite. They were my favorite, one of my favorite G5 teams. I have nothing but love for that program and for that team. Sometimes they've given UCF a run for their money, and we beat them, but Jesus Christ, um, I think that they are a very good team and they deserve to be in the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, y it's just the Big 12 is special, and I think that any team that fits in the way that they would, I think would work out really well with the Big 12 because they would be competitive.
Culturally and fan wise, I think that Boise State fits in quite a bit better than Utah does.
Well, that's
Well,
a low bar to trip
they,
over.
I mean, yeah.
The only thing worse would be maybe Florida State fans because that's why the SEC and the Big Ten really don't want them because they're a liability.
The thing is getting just completely, I guess I haven't been paying attention as much as some people have. I mean, I've got several people that follow that are Utah fans, but I usually follow the good ones. Like when I saw that pig bust dude, I just blocked him pretty quickly. But
Oh my God, bro!
Dude,
I
I'm
Every
so
I
week
glad
I
didn't.
he's
think I'm gonna
gone.
lose this count.
I never had a problem with him, but I can see. He followed me. I followed him. Like it wasn't. I never really had a problem. So I don't know. Give me. What was his deal? Like I
it
know he
was
was a
two
pain in the
people. It
ass.
was well, it was actually the crazy thing about it, it's a two-person account, and one
Yeah,
of them, the one that was doing the like normal stuff, that's like hey, I just hope we have a good game today, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, they say he was just this salt of the earth guy, but the other dude was just, he was the one that would like just break down and say the most ignorant stuff you ever heard in your life about the Big
Just
12 and calling
hateful
us hillbillies,
stuff.
just calling us all hillbillies, he's the one that coined the term truck stop conference and all that. But I
Oh,
didn't, I
Yeah, that's
didn't
where that
really
get.
have,
Yeah,
and I saw some of the stuff he said, and so I just blocked it pretty easily. But what I was getting to was now I'm starting to see it get picked up every single week that every little thing that happens during a Utah football game, it's the Big 12 going after him. Like yesterday, it was the refs. Granted,
Yeah.
we all know Big 12 refs suck. That's not
Yeah, the
them.
refs
Like,
have been horrendous all year for
yeah,
all of us.
for
It's nothing
everybody.
new.
we UCF knows. Like we complained about the American Conference refs when we I forgot what game it was. I think it was the K-State game. There were some calls that, I remember. It was a touchdown that could have, had us win that K-State game, but it was called back over a BS pass interference call. And even the announcers was like, "What was that? That wasn't like the refs suck."
Yeah, but I have heard people say before that the Pac-12 refs probably were the best refs because the dude that does our Storm the Field USC account, he posted last night. He said, he thought the Pac-12 refs weren't great, but he said the Big Ten refs absolutely suck. And so then I did a little deep dive. Every conference has this problem. I mean, it's not just us; it's every single conference out there. But it's just getting quite annoying seeing every single week that Utah loses that it's the Big 12's fault for this. It's like, can y'all just admit that your half of your team is injured and y'all suck this year? I mean, I just get so tired of the victim mentality of, oh, we have to be here. Well, sorry, you had a crappy commissioner and a crappy conference.
Yeah, like you have to be here, but I'm sorry, you're not. Like you have nowhere to go. The Big Ten said no, thank you.
Yeah, and I truly believe if BYU was not in our league, they wouldn't be as vile about it. I think that really sticks in their craw, the fact that BYU's here and here they go crawling to the conference of BYU's at. I really think that's probably 90% of the issues because I think that you can't be upset about being in the same league that has the states of Florida and Texas in it. With that recruiting background, that's amazing. But I mean, I don't know. I just think that they're just prima donnas all around.
I listen. I think Utah is a. I was one of the silent. Like I was one of the minority when it was announced that Utah was coming in. That I was 100. Like I was on board. I was like, yes, let's bring Utah in. Oh, but their fans suck. I don't care. Like Utah at the time was a what, top 10 team? They finished top
Yeah,
10, right?
yeah. Well,
Yeah, it
they
was a
were
top.
back to
It was
back
a
Rose Bowls. Yeah.
Yeah, like a top 10 team, back to back Rose Bowl. They weren't a pushover. They weren't like we weren't inviting Houston or anything, you know. Like I was 100% on board for having
Then
um
Houston beats them this year. That's
yeah, I
funny.
know, right? I was 100% for it because it adds like we needed a name brand. Like again, not Utah fans, if you're listening, don't let this go to your head. But like, come on, we all admit it, at the time that was big. Utah was big like that.
Mhm.
That was good for us. So I
Yeah,
was 100%.
I'll definitely say that when I heard about Utah, I was super excited. I was all for it. Let's go. We added another great brand. And then their fans came in and literally did nothing but run their mouth about how they were going to run the Big 12 and all this, all that. I was, and I predicted this before the season that this season is not going to be the way that Utah wants it to be. But I did not expect them to get smacked the way that they have in the Big 12, honestly.
Well, in all fairness, they do have several injuries. That's,
Yes.
but on the other side, still other key players are still there. But I kind of think it's that distraction. I think one of the worst things that happened with them was, in the offseason, they announced Morgan Scalley, their defensive coordinator, as their HC and waiting. I think that's a huge distraction because, I mean, I think for the players, I mean, is this Whittingham's last year? It's kind of strange that you would go ahead and announce that, like they did. And even a lot of people that were Utah fans were like, I don't know why we're doing this. And they thought it was a distraction. So that might be part of it too. But I think Cam Rising, I think when they lost Cam, I think that whole team was just surrounded by Cam Rising. That's what they, lived and died for. And whenever he was never was healthy, then he gets to go in during the Arizona game and gets injured, or against Arizona State gets injured and out for the year again.
I think that having Utah in kind of is like the consolation prize for us almost getting Oregon in.
I think that's fair.
I mean
think
that I mean
that
that's how I looked at it. Like we miss Oregon. Like I mean if you all follow realignment, you would know that Oregon was basically all set and done to join the Big 12.
hmm
Like if you follow Devious Duck, love him Austin. Um he was like it was just we have Oregon fans, which again I love Oregon fans. They're great. Like they were really excited to join the Big 12. They didn't see us as like a lesser conference. They were excited,
yeah, it just
but
sucks for those of us that are Big 12 traditionalists and been here since the beginning. Really, because the Big 12
the
has only been
hateful
around
eight.
since since it's been around since '96. But seeing like bringing in the American teams and bringing in BYU and seeing how thankful all four of them were. And then you get Colorado, who's like, "Oh yeah, we're glad to be back." And Arizona was happy. And Arizona State, there were some problems with their administration, but I really didn't see very many of their fans that were too upset. Now, I didn't follow a lot of their fans, but then you get Utah coming in. I think that was the problem for most of the Big 12 traditionalists. Was just like everybody else has been so thankful, and you guys got to be like this. But then again, they feel like they belong in the Big Ten, and hey, you should have your expectations. If you feel like you belong over there, or you feel like you belong wherever, that's great. But oh well, they're all pretty quiet right now, though. That's for damn sure.
I mean, yeah, yeah, like we were like I know like again a lot of the Big 12 schools and new ones where I mean Arizona State at the time was kind of like a shocking like oh we're bringing them in with Arizona like okay that was not expected because I again at the time they were basically their entire program was like dead in the water.
hmm
So it was kind of shocking to bring them into the Big 12. I'm glad we did. They're funny enough
They're
they're gonna probably be representing the Big 12 in the playoffs. But I mean, like I said, a lot of the schools, and that's the thing about the culture. Like a lot of schools really like ride or die for each other. Um, I
The
mean,
Big
unless
12
you're
is one big family.
absolutely.
yeah, like it's
And
that's somebody put it best. Somebody put it best. We we mess with each other, we give each other, flack, et cetera, et cetera. But if someone else from another conference throws, throws a rock at us, best believe we're gonna defend you.
I've
hmm
said that 1,000 times on my shows. And I will say it's great to be back because I almost died on my drink. So I had to go away for a second. That was brutal. But I think honestly, I'm 100% sure that I've done that on every single show I've ever recorded.
I want to get a different drink.
Well, it's a different drink every time. Oh. But
Well,
yeah,
how,
no, the
so
Big 12 is very special because yeah, like the TCU Georgia beef that they were beefing, or Michigan that they were beefing with each other, and Uh, it's just like how we all banded together to defend TCU because, well, they're our family. They're like one of our cousins, and you don't mess with our cousins, or we're coming after you too.
Yeah, and I think that's the refreshing part is because, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have taken it for, well, but prior to 2 years ago, prior before knowing that they were going to leave for the SEC, we never took it for Texas and Oklahoma like that. I think everybody else kind of took it for each other, but nobody really took it for, I mean, other people that took it for Oklahoma, but nobody took it for Texas.
Yeah, no, everyone really agreed that Texas was the worst, and they 100% belong in the SEC. Horns down every day.
Horns down, and I mean the SECs right now, they're regretting a little bit what's happening. I mean, like I said, I said this before. I think in a space we were earlier a week ago, I said I'm like, I honestly, if in a few years from now, I can honestly see Texas going independent.
Hmm.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I agree that they're gonna upset the SEC enough that they're finally gonna be like, you know what? You do your own thing. We really don't need that kind of negativity.
yeah, they can't play bully ball like they did in the Big 12. The SEC won't put up with it.
Exactly. I'm just hoping that Texas doesn't end up making the uh playoff because,
I kind of hope they do. I hope they do because I think that will say, "Oh, this is a team that came from the Big 12 last year. And they came here and mopped the floor with you people."
well, that's the only reason why I'm secretly rooting for them.
Because it's
Otherwise,
funny. It's funny because when Texas A&M first went in their first year into the SEC, they had Johnny Manziel and they lit up the SEC. So it'd be kind of funny to see that. Oh, you enter in from the Big 12 and you come in there and start, doing good. It's whenever you kind of settle in and you're just one of the other schools. That's when you kind of fall down because Missouri and A&M came into the SEC swinging.
and neither one of them are particularly great, even now.
No, no, they're just right in the middle. They've kind of blended in now. Is it going to snow this weekend for Farmageddon?
I really, really hope not because, again, as I said before, I have really, really bad PTSD from last year's game that I just happened to have went to. And it was absolutely brutal watching our players basically literally just give up on the game, halfway through was so hard to watch.
Hmm. And then next year, you guys open up the season in Ireland against Iowa State.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was talk at the beginning of the year. How crazy would it have been for, you know, K State to play Iowa State, Farmageddon, then the Big 12 championship, and then in Ireland? Like, that would have been insane.
There's two games this weekend in the Big 12 that I look at right now, and I cannot figure out how it's going to go. The first one is Farmageddon. I really think it could go either way. But the other one is Sam's team. I have no idea what to think about this UCF Utah game. I don't know which team would be motivated. I think I give a little bit of a side up for UCF, but boy, I have no idea who to pick in that one.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that's going to be a really tough game for both teams. I think that Utah might, maybe they found a quarterback that might actually be able to help them, after their season long search. Excuse me. But I don't know if UCF, I think that they're going to be able to hold them off. Uh is it at UCF or is it in Salt Lake?
It's in Orlando.
Orlando? Okay. So then yeah, I fully expect UCF to win,
No,
but I think it'll
no,
be
no, 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 no,
well, that's
no.
what the Utah fans say too, some of
That's
them.
listen,
So
listen. fully expecting UCF to win. That is what people. That is what West Virginia fans said. That's what yeah. That is what Florida fans said. That's what Colorado. Actually, no, not Colorado fans. We've really had a tough like I'm looking back on it. UCF has had like a tough schedule.
Yeah, no, they've played some really tough games, and that one against West Virginia was absolutely brutal. I didn't get to watch any of it, but I saw the highlights and just man, that game was rough, and it was close, but it just didn't end well for UCF, and that's why I would like to hope that maybe going into the last game that UCF has a little bit of motivation to maybe get the win. But who knows? It's their last game. Maybe they're just like,
Well, both
screw it, we're
yeah, well,
done.
both teams yesterday officially became bowl ineligible. So neither one of them probably have too much motivation. They just want to get this stuff over and get moving on. So
And it just sucks because we legit have RJ Harvey. We have honestly one of the a very talented roster as seniors, and their last game is at home, and that's it. Like I don't think a lot of UCF fans. Again, this is the first time in what 9 years we've been bowl ineligible. Like
bro, imagine how I feel.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, like now, like it's bad when people are like, "Well, it's time for basketball season." Somehow, some are saying, "Well, it's time for baseball season."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw my tweet earlier today about how the Big 12 just completely sucks at rivalry week. This is getting horrible. I don't know. I don't know how this keeps happening that we cannot schedule rivalry games. I mean, Farmageddon and Arizona State, Arizona is pretty much the only two rivalry games this weekend in the Big 12.
That's the
And I'm
one thing I
looking,
do not.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm gonna blame Brett for. Like,
oh shit,
uh,
that's what I was gonna say. Yep,
uh,
definitely.
Brett, like that is like. I mean, first off, we don't have a rival in the Big 12. Like, our if you want like I mean, yeah, you have Cincinnati, and yes, you could argue Cincinnati is a rival, and I mean, yeah, they are. But first off, we're not playing them in rivalry week. Second off, the traditional UCF, Warren I-4, the ones that gave you probably the best college football in 2017 you have seen with your two eyes, is not happening anymore. And it's not going to happen for the next decade, for the foreseeable future, because
Mhm.
obviously we're not in the conference with them. The fact that again, I don't think we don't even play. There's a year we don't even have a rival. We don't play a rivalry game. We don't play Cincinnati at all 1 year. I don't know which year that is, but we're not scheduled with them.
That's just sad. We need to just pick someone for UCF to pick on and just go
I
after
wanted
them
it to
Uh,
be
so,
and start
so,
the
TCU.
so,
I
some
wanted it to
rivalry.
people
be
have been
TCU.
trying to some people have been trying to shove fucking um they've been trying to shove Houston down our
Houston,
throat. Yeah.
space race or whatever.
See, that one is a good one. I would be all for the space race. I mean, that's a great
But
name.
Yeah,
Cincinnati's right there.
but Houston
Yeah.
doesn't really talk about their space shit very much like UCF does.
Yeah. UCF really incorporates it. Houston is just there in the
Yeah.
background.
And
But
we leave an impression in every team we play.
I'm looking at this right now. So this week's schedule, you got Oklahoma State, Colorado, Black Friday at noon. So like there is history there from the old Big 8 days. Utah, UCF, no history at all. Baylor, Kansas. In basketball, it's a rivalry, but not football. West
Um,
Virginia,
no, because both teams are bad
yeah,
anyway.
West Virginia, Texas Tech. I mean, they call that the John Denver Bowl because John Denver sang the song about country roads, and then he was from Lubbock, though, so they
Yeah,
tried to make that something, but it doesn't make any sense. Territory.
it does, and it's all right if you're trying to honor a
It's
legend,
just so
but
weird,
you
just
know,
so
it's
far
not the
apart.
same.
Yeah, it's just strange. It'll never be a rivalry. No one will ever acknowledge it other than the two fan bases. Okay, then you got Arizona, Arizona State, which that's an outstanding rivalry. TCU, Cincinnati, that's not a rival. Farmageddon, and then the Houston, BYU. So yeah, Brett's got to figure that crap out because that's one thing. I love everything Brett has done as far as being aggressive, but when it kind of comes down to the knowledge of the teams and stuff, I mean, I didn't expect him to know a whole lot, just knowing his background. But this is the kind of stuff right there where it kind of shows his, I'm not saying ignorance, but just hey, just put it
Inexperience.
together, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. 'Cause I think last year, I think Barstool was dunking on the Big 12 pretty hard about it. 'Cause I think last year we played BYU last year in our rivalry week, beat them in double overtime.
Yeah. Oh, that game.
The rain game.
I really wanted BYU to lose that game because that would mean that Oklahoma would have gotten into the championships.
Yep.
Yeah, I even tweeted, I'm like, listen, I know what's about to happen to Oklahoma State when they face Texas in the Big 12 championship, but I know they're going to lose anyway, but you cannot let Oklahoma get in there.
Oh yeah, exactly. And what year was it that, Oklahoma State was literally, you know, inches away from the pylon to make it in or to win the Big 12
21.
championship?
21. Yeah.
21, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
My
rough.
life's been just a steady path of depression being an Oklahoma State fan.
Well, it could be worse. You could be a KU fan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it could be way worse.
You could be you could be a UCF fan whose head coach was like, I'm not retiring, and everyone just said, "Yep, it's
Please
no."
retire.
Everyone's like, "It's over, like it's over." Like I was on Space Nights, and I'm like, listen to my words right now. Gus stays. Mark my words on this day at exactly this hour in this minute. If Gus stays, we are going to lose to Northwestern in 2025 or wait, 2026 whenever we play them. And everyone's like, we're not going to lose, and I'm like, we're going to lose to Northwestern, and we're and I
What's
am
his
telling you,
buyout like?
2 million.
Do you guys got some pretty good donors?
They're
They're
the
not reliable.
situation. So actually, let me look at it real quick.
See, and the other team in the Big 12 that's interesting on that is West Virginia, because I think I was talking to my buddy who's a West Virginia guy, and it, he was saying that he thinks the buyout for Neil Brown is around 9 million. Do you think there's not someone that's not willing to pay that just to get him out of there? Because this season has been brutal for them, even though they picked up the win, over UCF. This season has been a huge
It is
letdown for their fans
it
too.
is 13.5 million.
Ooh.
Our AD, our AD, and this is why we hate our AD. Like everyone's just like we legit get you need to be fired because our AD announced his contract extension over the summer right before we joined the Big 12, like officially started Big 12 play and did that contract extension, not knowing because obviously the year before we made it into the conference championship game and beat two ranked teams. So obviously, from oh yeah, he deserves a contract extension. Come the Big 12, we blow out a 20 point to a 30-point lead against Baylor, and that is when the contract extension was announced. We did not take that well. So until if we don't have enough for a buyout, So we are stuck with him until 2027. And that is what a lot of people that is why a lot of people have such, like, if you look at UCF Twitter, you look and you're like, what is going on in there? It's because there is I said this in the in a group chat with Space Knights last night. I'm like, this isn't like just a bad season. Like you look and say, 4-8, okay. All right, dang, right? Whatever. 4-8. Um, we continue for next year. He's on the hot seat. His seat is getting warm. The fact that since the Big Noon 12, Big Noon kickoff, we have collapsed. Our players have redshirted early. Stuff has come out about Gus, and our NIL, who already had bad faith with our fans. Our NIL has absolutely bad faith with our fans. Like there are people that in the before the season began, the well, now former, but the head of the NIL said, basically was like, we got so many good players. We have this, that, get KJ Jefferson, we paid half a mil for, we are so excited, and he even said, hey, if we start losing in the Big 12, you could grab your pitchforks. And lo and behold, and mind you, he left. He left mid-season. He pieced out.
KJ or the
So
NIL guy?
the NIL guy.
Oh crap!
Yeah, he pieced out. And like, if there is bad faith with that NIL. Like, fans, and again, there are fans who defend Gus, and there's just more constant infighting. And again, it's just a horrific, because again, we are saying, we could have avoided this situation. Like, it all stems from, we were so cocky that our AD put us in this impossible situation. And right now we are faced with basically fading into obscurity by 2027.
Now I do think you do have a little bit of optimism, and I'll tell you why. Living this close as I do to Fayetteville, Arkansas, I do know if even though that he's had a subpar time at UCF, that Arkansas job comes open, they're going to be aiming for Gus. They're going to be aiming for him, and I think one of the bigger ties that he has to Arkansas was, I mean, other than the fact that he's like the most famous high school coach in Arkansas history, is Travis Williams. And everybody says that it's one thing they're wanting to keep is Travis Williams on that staff. And that would be one of the bigger things that would bring him over there. Even though he might go 4-8 this year, if for some reason Arkansas does move away from Pittman, do not be shocked if they go after Gus. They've tried before, and I think Gus has pretty much said before that he would like to retire. He always said he wants to retire wherever he's at. Now he's saying he wants to retire at Orlando. I did hear him say that one time. But I do know that, with him being from the Fayetteville area, he would love to be back up there. So maybe, just maybe, he might be Fayetteville bound.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see, because you're right, he has the ties there, and if it became open, you got to think he would very, very strongly consider it, at least.
They would
But
look at this UC. They would look at this UCF run as, oh well, it's hard to recruit there. They'll
it's
use the
really
work
not.
hire. Yeah, it's really hard to recruit there.
But the thing is, like, when you look at Gus's age, like, you like it's to the point. It's like, you need to retire, dude. Like, again, if he would retire this season, I think that his legacy would have just been as an okay coach, like, not really like, the worst coach in, I mean, yes, record wise, the worst coach in UCF history, in the last 20 years. Um, but his legacy would have remained intact, but now he's saying, I'm not retiring. And there's a lot now going into the 2025 season. Like, if we basically do not have another winning season, and I'm talking making it into the bowl or probably like becoming 7-5 or 8-4, the fan base would be non-existent because it's like we his legacy would be destroyed. His legacy would be destroyed. As like he is right now putting like and Gus is a stubborn guy and he's right now putting a lot. Like he like not a lot of people like him as the coach. I mean, he's a great guy. Now again, like I've always said this before and I'll say this again. Gus the coach is different than coach Gus the person. Gus Malzahn is a great person. He's done a lot for the players and he's done a lot for the UCF and and I believe that he believed in the program. But there is a time to step away. There is a time to step away and when everything is pointing against you, you need to step away. Like we are basically staring down the barrel of being buried in obscurity.
And are we getting to that point also with Mike Gundy too? I mean, we're seeing that with him this season that it's kind of like he doesn't really care what's happening. He's just like, yeah, whatever, there's next season.
I would say that, but I really so this is the first weekend since the Kansas State game because you remember during the Kansas State game like there was a lot of things to be like happy for OSU. Like we somewhat got the passing game going. Our defense was still shit, but like it looked like it could be salvaged. But this was the first weekend since that Kansas State game that I stepped away and thought, okay, maybe not all is lost. But that's also infuriating because it's week 11.
It's like,
It's
what could we have done the
yeah,
entire
it's
season?
infuriating that way. But listening to his press conference yesterday, I really, really feel like he said some things that really made me think that maybe he's been either talked to or he's kind of seen the light on it. Because one of the things that Gundy has always done is always chose experience over talent. He's always done that. If you're a redshirt senior and you are mediocre, which we see that with Alan Bowman every single week, he will play that instead of playing a young sophomore quarterback that's more talented and needs the reps. Take away that, yeah, maybe the decision making might be a little bit better with Bowman. He will always go with experience over talent. And he even admitted that in his press conference yesterday. Like, when everybody's talking about, like, Malawake Smith looked amazing out there. Why hasn't he been playing? And then he made up a lie saying he's only been practicing for a month, which you can look back and see when he started practicing. And it was like a month and a half, 2 months ago. And he could have been using that as a general thing, but he made it sound like it was like right after the BYU game was when he was first taking snaps. No, it was before that. But hearing some of the things he's been saying and where he's not just blaming the players, he's also blaming the coaching staff because he refuses to. Because to him, that's a knock on his ego because these are the guys he's picked out. The players, now in the transfer portal era, he's kind of really taken the approach of it's like free agency, and I can't really choose. I can't really pick who comes and who goes, type thing. But now he's finally accepting the fact that maybe our coaches are the problem, which is infuriating. But also, you have this kid who balled out yesterday, was one of the leading passers in college football all weekend, and he's been sitting behind Bowman, who's just eating up space. So I wonder if his mentality's kind of changed a little bit. But look, here's the thing. As much as I dog on Gundy, I mean, every single day I dog on Gundy on my STF account. Every single day I do. But I do know Gundy's a good football coach. Though, you don't get from where OSU was to where OSU is right now without having someone who's a dang good coach and has done a great job. I just hope that he still has some of that in him because it is perishable. I mean, if you don't do these things every single year, you will lose those leadership capabilities. You'll lose your drive. He said some things yesterday that made me feel, you know, like he can get it fixed. And really, if you look at our team, and I mean, I follow all the players on Instagram, and I'll read everything that they say, and like they're really positive. Like even Ollie has been super positive all year. Um, then you like look around at other teams and players post, cryptic stuff. That stuff never happened to any this year at OSU. But I don't know. I mean, a part of me kind of thinks that maybe he's on his death march, but the other part of me thinks that he knows what's wrong and he thinks he can fix it because he got passionate yesterday. And I'm not talking, I'm a man, I'm 40 passionate. I'm talking like he was actually like emotional. Like you could see that he was flustered about how the season has gone. But it's just been mismanagement after mismanagement. And I think it's going to come down to him, you know, making some good hires, not just hiring people that are yes men. And I think that's been the biggest problem at Oklahoma State since T. Boone Pickens died. When T. Boone Pickens died, you know, all the oversight over Gundy was gone. And Gundy got to bring his guys in, and he wanted yes men. And since then, since 2019, it's been this steady trickle down that we've seen. So hopefully, either he got in trouble because one thing, I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but I know for sure Sam probably didn't hear this, but you may have heard this up in Kansas. Was there was a Tulsa World article put out this week where the Pokes with a Purpose, the NIL collective, went on there and just wrote this scathing article about Mike Gundy and how counterproductive he is for the NIL era and how he broadcast it in a negative light. And they're like, we know he doesn't like NIL. We understand that, but NIL is here to stay. And if you want your team to succeed, you've got to donate. You've got to do your part. And that kind of press coming from our NIL collective, which I mean, in all reality, a lot of fans were maybe the NIL collective shouldn't have done that. And I said, no, I think they should have. I think they should have because as much negative light comes onto him right now, the more possible change can happen. But I mean, really, ultimately at this point, it's too early to tell. But next year, outside of the game at Oregon, really, we have a pretty good schedule. And I think next year could be a good year to bounce back. And from everything I've heard, it doesn't sound like we're going to have as big of a transfer portal haul as we did the year Spencer Sanders left. The year he left, it was massive. I mean, we lost our entire wide receiving core. I think a lot of players will come back, but we'll see. I mean, if we have more years like this, OSU is going to have a pretty hard discussion with Mike Gundy and with themselves because they're really. I mean, they're not really. They've never set themselves up in a position to where if they start seeing failure, it's like they have to continuously see failure before they make a change. Mike Boynton on the basketball team, that firing came 3 years too late, and now you see the point where
Yes.
people are bashing OSU when you see Gallagher Iba Arena and it's not even a quarter full. Well, it's like it's been horrible for the last 6 years. What do you expect the fans to do? I mean, they're not going to go watch terrible product on a Tuesday night. But I mean, you remember
Yeah.
back in the day when Gallagher Iba was hopping every single
Oh,
game.
yeah.
That's the problem because it will happen to it at Boone Pickens Stadium if they don't fix it quick. So a lot of soul searching's got to be done. But I don't
Yeah.
think there's.
What was the deal with the Spencer Sanders deal? Because I I remember that being so hyped up that he was going to be the savior of this team. And then by the end of the season, they were selling his shirts for $3.
He got Well, he was injured quite a bit for one. Two, he it kind of came out that he had a bad attitude, and he
Mm.
kind of had a temper, and you know, a couple things happened. Um, I'm trying to think what all happened that year. The biggest one was when we went up to y'all's house and got beat 48-0. I mean, yeah, he was injured, but like apparently he wasn't telling people and whatnot, and I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but when it was Bedlam that year, and dude, he threw the worst interception you could ever possibly see. He threw like there was not a single OSU player anywhere near this cornerback he threw to from OU, and he comes on the sideline and grabs Gundy's headset and starts yelling in it at Casey Dunn, and everybody's like, oh, "That's BS. He can't be doing that." And then the next week, it was senior day, and we played West Virginia, and he just sat on the sidelines, just pouting. He didn't do anything. And then a week later, he announces he's going in the portal and goes to Ole Miss. And then when he goes to Ole Miss, he plays. I mean, he was like third string at Ole Miss, but then again, he was apparently he wasn't going to class at all, and so he became academically ineligible and was pretty much kicked off the team at the end of that season. So I don't know a lot of the gritty details, but it kind of seemed like he was really full of himself. I think was kind of the biggest the long explanation for that short answer was, probably I think it was a lot of it had to do with his arrogance.
Well, I think that just comes with the name of Sanders. I mean, even if he's not technically related, I think the name just automatically inflates the ego.
Yeah, he got some good. He was real successful. Did a lot of good things, but I think it was just his time had run its course, and I think he was ultimately looking for somewhere else, and he wanted out of there. And I'm not saying he tanked that season, but honestly, he was pretty overhyped. I mean, he had some good games, but and OSU fans, man, they fantasize about him now. But it's like for as many games as we had that, like beating Texas Tech one year was a big game. I remember beating Oregon State up at Oregon State was big. That was his actual debut. But then for all those games, you would have losing to Baylor, or you would have losing to Kansas State 48-0. So it was just a little bit of, I don't know, harsh reality for him.
Yeah, no, it was really brutal because I remember basketball season that year. We went down to Stillwater to go to the game, and my kids were asking me to bring back a shirt from down there, so I was looking around through their shops, and they were like the shirts for him were like $4. I mean, they were basically giving them away. They were happy to get rid of him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of good faith with the fans, and that's why I think this whole transfer portal business, as much as I'm not going to sit here and complain about it, you just see so many times some of these players that are truly loved by their university, and then they make the decision to, hey, I'm going to go to, for example, I'm just making a hypothetical here, but you get a kid that goes to Kansas State, grew up in Kansas, grew up going to Kansas State games, and then goes there, and then out of nowhere, Michigan offers him the bag, and then just leaves. You know, like that's the harsh reality of it. And I think a lot of that was Spencer too. Was he was real involved, and then just one day he just disconnected, and it never, you know, you know,
He never got it
he
back.
never got it back. But see, and I think Spencer kind of got the backlash of Trace Ford, because Trace Ford played for us, and he was from Edmond, and outstanding defensive end, but yet he couldn't stay healthy. And then, he announces he's going in the portal. Well, when he announced he was going in the portal, all the rumor was that he was going to either Auburn or USC. Like everybody said, Auburn or USC. And he went to both. And then out of nowhere, one day he goes on Twitter and puts that he's committed to the University of Oklahoma. And that was our first taste of in-state transfer that really sucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was
That was
brutal.
brutal. But what was brutal about that was he was always so vocal about how he loved Oklahoma State and his parents, and a lot of people kind of took the dirty road on that, like really bashing his mom and what stuff. But it's just part of the game. I mean, there's a lot of kids that live in Oklahoma that come from split families. Like half my family's OSU, half my family's OU. So, I'm sure there's people, telling him to go there, and I think he was thinking about the SEC aspect of it, being in the SEC but still living in the Oklahoma City metro area to him probably sounded pretty good.
Like a good deal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But
Yeah. No, those ones are always rough. I mean, just the day and age of the transfer portal, you never know what's actually, going to happen, but you can have the hope that your team's going to be able to be competitive in the NIL and be able to keep these high recruits. Because, like we saw with Lincoln Cure, he's committed to K State. He's coming to K State. There's no doubt about it. But, people were freaking out about him having uh, another scheduled visit to Oregon. And it's like he's not going there. They're trying to offer him a lot of money, so he's gonna take the free ride and the ability to go see a game in that atmosphere and stand on the sidelines. Who wouldn't take that opportunity to go do that? And it's like him showing up to the KU game yesterday. They were freaking out about him going to a KU game wearing his brother's KU jersey. He's been very, very supportive of his brother who plays at KU. Don't dig deeper into that because there's nothing there to worry about.
yeah, that's I've been following his deal for quite a while, and I didn't realize how far out in West Kansas his high school was. It's way out there, ain't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, because wasn't his commitment? I think it was his commitment day. Yeah, they're like it was Mountain Time. I'm like Mountain Time. I was like, I didn't know Kansas was in the Mountain Time zone, but yeah,
Yeah. No, it's real close to the Colorado border.
yeah. And I remember people saying that Colorado might be in the mix with them there towards the end too. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But no, the one that we were worried about was Oregon because, they were going to offer the bag to him, a 5-star tight end.
yeah,
You knew they were going to offer the bag, and we were extremely thankful that he was willing to stay home, and he's going to get a bag here,
yeah,
but we hope that we can keep him.
yeah. And that's what's sad, man, is the fact that you're going to see schools like Oregon and apparently Michigan now with Dave Portnoy with what he's going to have, Texas. You know, they can pretty much just buy whoever they want. If you get a kid that does not have strong ties to a school, what's going to stop them from going to those schools? You know what I mean? They're going to be able to rake in so much more talent just off the sheer money value that they have. That's why schools like us,
Yeah,
we're always
exactly.
going to be the hunted. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate. And I hate it, but that's just part of us living. Me living here in rural Oklahoma, and you living there in rural Kansas. And you cheer for these teams, but man, we don't have those deep pockets like Ohio State does. And you hear about the money that they spend in the off season. I mean, how much did they say the whole roster for Ohio State cost this year? It was some.
I
It
don't
was
remember,
something
but it was some
astronomical,
insane number. I do remember that.
and then you got to look at it like this: is to me, that's going to take so much fun out of the sport because whenever you have the same 12 teams in the playoff in 15, 20 years, they're going to make some changes to that whole thing. And I think the NIL thing, when the whole revenue sharing stuff comes in, like I think it'll be a little bit more attainable, but still, I mean, Bryce Underwood getting $12 million. I mean, that's just ungodly. And then
Yeah,
my question is, what's their
exactly.
motivation to go to the NFL at that point?
Yeah, I know. You might as well stay and play 4 years of college and then go to the NFL and make a bag.
And that's what I heard about Cam Rising. A lot of people said Cam Rising can technically come back next year because he got injured again, and he can come
Hmm.
back and get another NIL deal. I do know his NIL deal right now was, I think, what did I hear, was north of 2 million right now, 2 million a year. So I mean, he's never.
That's more than any NFL back out.
Well, and here's the thing: is he knows he's not going to get an NFL deal. I mean, if he does, he's going to get cut. I mean, everybody on every big board had him going undrafted free agent and probably getting cut in the summer workouts.
Training camp.
Yeah, so why not? Why not just play as long as you can? I mean, to me, another player that I see that with is Quinn Ewers. I mean, his injury rate, and let's be honest, I mean, he's okay, but he's not near as good as they thought he would be. Everybody thought he was going to be, a true freshman Heisman winner. I could see him doing that too, depending on what his value is. But
Well, and with Texas, their other deal is the fact that they're not going to let a Manning sit any longer.
no,
They've already said that after this year, he's taking the reins, and you can't blame them. You have a generational talent like that, and he's literally just sitting there.
yeah, yeah. And I think we'll kind of see how good of talent he really is. With because that's going to be the biggest thing. Was he overhyped because of his last name, or is he really as good as what they think? I've seen him play. He's pretty good. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not
Yes,
a
he
good player.
is.
He's a good player, but
He is. But I mean, when you grew up getting trained by your two NFL Hall of Fame uncles,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you better be.
yeah, and just sheer genetics. I mean, his dad was a great player too. His dad got sick or whatever and couldn't play anymore. Was what the
Hmm.
problem with him. But where'd Sam go?
I don't know. He dipped out a little bit ago. I don't know if he had an issue or
He's an
what.
hour
So,
ahead of us, anyways. He's probably in bed by now. But
oh yeah, no, it's probably late for him.
yeah, but
But yeah, no, I'll say one thing, uh tonight was not good for either one of our teams in basketball. And for K-State, we had a really good weekend up to that, Our women's team won, our football team dominated. The Chiefs, we knew that, they were gonna make it close
mhm.
and stressful, but we got the win there. And then our basketball team comes in and loses the Liberty 67-65
Oh, geez, I
in
didn't see
the
that.
Virgin Islands. Oh my. Like, we can't be losing to Liberty. I get it, they're a decent team and they shot lights out tonight. But there were a lot of things that if we had just corrected a couple of issues, we win that game by 15 points at least.
Hmm.
And then for you, you guys lost to Nevada 90-78.
Hmm.
So we're both down tonight.
Yeah, the one thing that did make me feel somewhat better, I saw that Nevada's net ranking, I think, was 34 right now. So like they're a pretty good squad, and I just I mean I'm in that weird phase right now. I'm kind of like where Kansas football is, where Kansas Like right now, I think Kansas, if they would have lost on Saturday, they probably would have looked for everything positive and be happy about that. Whereas, for me as an OSU football fan, I can't do that right now because I'm not used to that. But I'm like that with basketball. Like I even if we lose, I'm still finding things that's like, you know what? No, I'm not happy we lost, but at least I can see these incremental things that are getting better that you kind of take for granted when you're winning because man, I don't think people realize how bad OSU basketball got there towards the end of Mike Boynton's era. I mean, it was
Yeah, it was brutal. And the fact that they were able to beat K State at
yeah,
home, even though it was in Stillwater, was a huge shock to everybody, especially us, because, we thought, oh, we're having a decent year. We should at least be able to get this win, no problem.
yeah. Well, it's Boynton was it was kind of confusing in a lot of ways because Boynton was really highly talked about by a lot of people, you know, in the industry, spent some time down in South Carolina and everything. But the issue with Boynton though was he was an outstanding recruiter. Like honestly, I mean, Michigan with him on the staff, you give Michigan, I think Dusty May is the coach up there now. I mean, that team right there, they are going to be a perennial tournament team probably for the next several years, as long as Boynton's on that staff, because that's his key. He got South Carolina good. He got Stephen F. Austin good. I think it was Stephen F. Austin one. Maybe I'm getting somebody mixed up there. Who was it? I'll think about it in a second. But
Yeah, I can't remember
yeah,
who it was that
he's an
he was
outstanding
at. But yeah, I
recruiter,
know who you're talking about.
but he just could not get it together on the court. And Lutz, I mean, he wasn't the prettiest hire because he was kind of under the radar. But it seems like we're finally starting to kind of put some pieces together where we at least look competent. And that was the problem last year was we just did not look competent at all on any side of the ball.
Yeah, no, and it was one of those deals like this year. I'm seeing a lot of the same issues with K State because their team is failing really hard to run an offense in the half court at all.
Hmm. Yep. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the Big 12 basketball season works out, especially with Arizona in the mix now, and Cincinnati looks like they're getting better. So some of these additions that we brought in, of course, Houston is awesome, but BYU is going to be really good. So Big 12 is getting bigger and better
Yeah.
every year. It's going to be harder and harder for teams that have down years to kind of get their spot back in line. That's what I fear for you guys. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
kind of getting back to where Tang had you guys 2 years ago.
Yeah, and the issue is that, as I said before, is the fact that if we could just run an offense or we had the ability to aggressively attack rebounds,
Hmm.
we would be a great, great team. This team has an insane amount of talent, but we're not able to use them in the way that they are best utilized. And not being able to run a set offense where you see everyone just standing around the entire possession, it doesn't look good.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, it can be rough sometimes, and that's one of the things that's great about the Big 12 is you never know who's going to be that team in the Big 12.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this year because I've always said that Big 12 basketball is what SEC football thinks they are. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it
exactly.
really is. I mean, any given year, it could be 10 teams now. You know what I mean? They could honestly be tournament quality teams, and that's the problem is a lot of good teams are going to get left in the dust, just being this big of a league. But It'll be interesting to see. I mean, especially like on the football side of things. I'm interested to see how these 16, 18 team leagues are going to be able to survive. Because I was reading something the other day about Oregon football. Apparently, they played their game last week. They won the game, and 2 days later, it took the Big Ten 2 days after Oregon won to realize that they had clinched a spot in the Big Ten championship game, that they had to go through their rules. I'm like, man, if this is going to happen every year, it's going to be so hard for people to follow it, and people are going to get disinterested.
Yeah, it's definitely going to cause mayhem in the fans. And, as fans, all we want is for things to be simple and that the average person can understand. And if you make it too complicated and you get too many rules involved, it's just not appealing to the average person. And, those are the people that you're drawing into games. It's not people just only with high ball knowledge. It's people that are average people.
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that I love to watch football. I don't care about your rules and stuff. Obviously, I know not on the field rules, but when it comes to the realignment and all that stuff, it's like as fans, we don't really care about the rules of that. Just let us enjoy our sports.
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think college athletics, we're going to see in the next 5 years. I mean, I know a lot of people that say the doom and gloom stuff, like the glory days of college athletics are over and blah blah blah. It's taken the fun out of it for them. I've never been that way, because it's like I remember when the Big 12 added West Virginia to the league, and I thought this makes no sense. I will never be able to like the Big 12 again because like I thought everything was weird. Now we're getting a team from West Virginia to be in our league, and then all of a sudden they get in and they fit in. And now it's like you look at these people talking about like they don't love the era of NIL and transfer portal and realignment and expansion. Like honestly, I hate the fact that Cal and Stanford is in the ACC. I think it's absolutely ignorant, but I'm not going to let that stop me from enjoying it. But it'll be interesting to see, though. I mean, maybe if enough of this mayhem does happen, it'd be interesting to see how many people do turn away from the sport. If it is really for the good or bad.
A super
Yeah,
league.
I mean, it's like for me, I'm a traditionalist, so like growing up watching the Rose Bowl, it was always Pac-12 versus Big Ten, and those games were cherished. You know what I mean? It would be Oregon versus Wisconsin or USC versus Minnesota or whatever, those kind of games. And now it's a conference
Yeah.
game, and now there's nothing special about it. You know what I mean? It's like I hate that part of it. But I think as time goes on, new traditions are made, and it'll be better. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it all fixes itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very interesting to see how the next few years play out. And basically, as fans, we're just here along for the ride and hoping for the best for our teams.
Yep, yep, yep. Well, man, I hate to do it,
So,
but I got to
who
jump off
knows?
here. Get me some sleep before.
No, we're going to go ahead and end the show. No, it was just one of those deals that we had some great conversation. So I was like, you know what? We'll extend it as far as we can. So, no, it was great to have you. Do not forget to go check out all of our wonderful Storm the Field pages and go support all of our great teams and the representation that we have for all of the great conferences in the NCAA. As always, a huge shout out to Arrowhead Nutrition for sponsoring this show and every other one. Shout out to Tree City Sports, us. You can see our logo. We rock it. Shirt made by AM Creations in Ottawa, Kansas. Go check them out. You can order their stuff online as well. This has been a great episode. We cannot wait for many, many more. Until next time, y'all take care now.